Hey everyone, thank you for watching. So in this video, we're getting into the nitty gritty now of our plugin. So what we're going to do now is actually our logic to go ahead and create a virtual record that we will then pass to the organization service to then create that record in Dynamics 365. So let's go ahead and create a try catch. And then in here, what we're going to do is we're going to comment, create a YouTube activity, track the creation of a video. All right. And then we're going to do entity. And we're going to call this one YouTube activity. It could be any name really, but what we're referencing is this new entity. And that entity logical name is AYO underscore YouTube video. And then we'll terminate this block here. Next thing we'll do is give ourselves a little bit of room. And now what we'll do is YouTube activity. And now we can reference using these brackets different attributes using their attribute names. So subject, we'll set it to a hard-coded value. New video created on November 27, 2021. We'll do a similar thing here with the description parameter. Learn how to build a plugin for Power Apps / Microsoft Dynamics 365. So we're just basically building out what we're going to pass into the service factory. Okay. Scheduled start. We'll set that to datetime.now and terminate it. Scheduled end. We'll set that to datetime.now as well and terminate it. And then the next thing we want to do is we want to reference the contact in the YouTube activity. So how do we do that? Well, we're going to do a check here. If context dot output parameters dot contains ID, then what we'll do is we'll create a GUID so new GUID where we're passing context output parameters and we want to pass in ID. That's fine, except this needs to be .toString, just like that. Okay. And then right here, we're going to set the regarding object ID type. Equal to contact. Just make sure I have that right. Yep. And then the next thing we're going to do is we're going to update the YouTube activity field regarding object ID. Regarding object ID is equal to, when this is a new entity reference, we're going to pass regarding object ID type, and then we're going to pass in regarding object ID. So just to confirm, this is our type, came from there. That's the contact record. That makes sense. This is our regarding object ID that came from the output parameters of the entity of whereupon which our plugin was invoked. So that looks good. All right. Next thing we're going to do is inside our try block, probably the most important thing, which is create the YouTube activity in Microsoft Dynamics 365 CRM Power Apps. We're going to do a couple things here that are best practice. We're going to use our tracing service. Why not? It's helpful. It's extremely helpful. We're going to say YouTube plugin, creating the YouTube activity. And then now we're going to use our service, our organization service, and we're going to use a create message. Okay. And we're going to pass into this our entity. Where was our entity? It was always YouTube activity, right? Terminate this, and you essentially have most of your code. But we want to make this a little more elegant. So in your catch, what you're going to want to do is, instead of those traditional random exceptions, we're going to use a fault exception. And it actually takes a parameter here, which is going to be organization service fault. So let's pass that in. And then we'll call that EX. That looks good. And then in here, what I'd rather do is throw a new invalid plugin invalid plugin new invalid plugin execution exception. An error has occurred in YouTube plugin. Tell me about it. Okay. Then we'll add another catch here with your traditional exception. But the purpose of this one here is to leverage the tracing service. I told you and I promised you that we would use this. So what we'll do here is syntax, name of your plugin, plugin, and then right here we'll do EX dot to string terminate, and then a throw. And there you have it. That's should be all the code. Okay. So this is going to create a YouTube activity, a custom activity that we've created in the system, connected to the contact that we run the plugin against, right? So make sure that you sign your assembly. So go into project and go to YouTube, or in your case, properties, whatever you called it, and sign your assembly. If you've never signed the assembly, you just sign the assembly, you click new, and then you either provide a password or you don't. I always provide a password, sign the assembly, and then compile after you've done that. So I'm going to go ahead and compile this. See if I get any build errors. I didn't get any build errors, so now I have a DLL that I can use. Other things you should look at, make sure that um, you don't have any of these CRM SDK references set to copy local true. So xrm.sdk, these are already out there in the environment that we're deploying this to, so there's no reason for you to add them in. So make sure that they're not part of your assembly, or else you're going to have problems and it's not going to work. All right. So in the next video, we'll go ahead and open up the plugin registration tool, register our assembly. We'll talk a little bit about pre-validation, pre-operation, post-operation, asynchronous and synchronous. Thank you so much for watching.